Hi there guys, Simon Conboy here with the Cover Zero show, just finishing up the NFC North free agency reviews today with the Minnesota Vikings. Now just going to give you a brief rundown of how I feel the roster currently looks, the needs that they had before getting to the activity that has occurred. Now the Vikings last year, probably the most snake bit team before the season began, losing Teddy Bridgewater to a horrific knee injury. They readjusted, thought the roster was ready to win, traded the first rounder to go and get Sam Bradford, who performed admirably to a degree. Was infuriating to watch, to be honest. I'm not a fan of watching check down offenses. It's set, I believe it was a completion percentage record this year, but the amount of balls that were thrown behind the line of scrimmage, which is difficult. He was put in a bad situation, having to learn a new. Well, he had some familiarity with the playbook, I would assume, but new team, not a huge amount of time to get to know the guys. They don't have great weapons on the outside. Adrian Peterson got hurt, so the offense had very little run game. The offensive line was just a mess from top to bottom. Conversely, the defense was fantastic. Again, Zimmer and the rest of the front office there have created a really, really good young defensive group there. I think they're as talented as any team defensively in the NFL. The linebacking crew's good. The defensive front is solid. Got some pass rushers there. They've got a couple of corners that played really well last season. Xavier Rhodes really came on for them, and Harrison Smith is one of, if not the best safety in the NFL. Ended up missing out on the playoffs after starting the season pretty hot. The offensive line really sabotaged a lot of what they were trying to do last season. I feel if they can just get some solid offensive output next season, get a couple more weapons, get that offensive front functioning. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's hard to imagine it being worse, although I can actually possibly see that, but we'll get to the players shortly. I think Zimmer's a great coach. I think they've done a great job developing defensive players there. They just need to try and get things turned around on the other side of the ball, and they could be a real threat in the NFC, not just the NFC North. Be interested to see what happens with Teddy Bridgewater in the future. It doesn't appear that he's going to be ready for next season. Let's see if Sam Bradford is more comfortable in year two. But going into free agency, the primary needs I had listed for the team were running back. Of course, Adrian Peterson's currently a free agent. Wouldn't be shocked if he went back to the team, especially since it seems his market probably isn't as inflated as he was hoping it would be. Both positions on the offensive line, guard, tackle, both absolutely need to be addressed. In particular, the tackle play, which was abysmal. So they've attempted to address the tackle position. Let's get to that. That's really the only major signings that the Vikings have made at this point in time. So we've got Riley Reiff, formerly of the division rival Lions. He's been brought in, I assume, to man the blind side based on the contract. He was a right tackle last year for the Lions, and he's got a 5-year, $58 million deal. So he's got to be playing left tackle, you would think. Missed out on Wagner. Here they were interested in him, which makes sense. He's a better player than Reiff. They need both tackle spots to be addressed. I understand the team feels like they're good enough to win now. I think we saw that last year with the Bradford trade. Defensively, they feel they're good enough that they can go out there and make these moves, and if they can just get something going on offense, as I said, I believe they could too if they can get it fixed. But I really do not feel throwing a deal of this length with this kind of money, Riley Reiff, who he's not a liability, but he's a very average player, and that's at right tackle. I think at left tackle, he can be exposed. Not the best pass blocker in the world, and again, I understand the desperation from the Vikings making this move. I don't agree with it though, just at all. It's something that I think will harm them in the long run. a guy on this kind of contract, they've got to have him there for a few years. If you're going to be paying him that kind of money to play right tackle, he's got to be doing it at a very high level. He's not shown in his career that he can do that. And as a left tackle, I mean, he's an upgrade from Khalil, but Khalil has been, last couple of seasons when he's been healthy, one of the worst left tackles in football. So that's a disappointing move. And also bringing in Mike Remmers to play right tackle. I would have to assume on a 5-year, $30 million deal. Now, the money there isn't egregious. Remmers is an experienced, mediocre tackle. Had some moments in Carolina. I think he's okay in the run game, exposed in pass protection, as we saw in particular in that Super Bowl and last season, where that offensive line was also a turnstile. I'm not sure. Maybe a mild upgrade from what they've currently got on the roster, but I do not feel that either of these moves have resolved the issues that this team has had with its offensive line. To me, they've just spent money to go sideways. Both very questionable deals. Now, believe me, I've got a lot of respect for the Vikings front office and what they've done since Zimmer got there. I think they've done a great job keeping this, creating that defense and making this team very competitive. But that offensive line was horrific last year. I don't think they've done anything to repair it. I can't believe that money for Reef. That's absurd. It really is. I'd rather draft a guy somewhere than give a contract like this out, because this is the kind of thing you could easily live to regret. I see them regretting it. Again, no disrespect to Reef. I think he's fine. He's like, I said this, I think, last week, kind of like the Alex Smith of tackles. He's just in the middle somewhere, uninspiring. But that kind of money, you really want a top player. They haven't got that. In terms of who they were tending to acquire, as I say, I still feel they need to get some help in those skill positions, running backs, wide receivers. Apparently they were in the Alshon Jeffrey running. That didn't work out. That's a big loss for them. He's the only player of that kind of caliber and skill set in the free agency group. Relying on a rookie, if they could even obtain one, to try and fulfill like a number one receiver role, I'm not so sure. A lot of the top receivers are now off the board. It's going to be very difficult for them to go get one. That was missing out on Jeffrey, I think, really harmed this team. In the long run, they lost a lot of players. Captain Munlan's gone back to Carolina. It's not a big deal. They're deep in the secondary. Khalil, contract he's been given by Carolina is absurd. I'm sure they were happy to see him walk. Massive bust as the number 4 pick. Rhett Ellison, a mediocre tight end. He got signed to a contract that was far too big, like many tight ends did. I will stop complaining about it eventually. It'd be nice if I could see some nice tight end deals, like the Bennett one. That was a good deal. Happy with that one. That's a good player being paid good player money, not Jermaine Gresham and some of these other contracts. Insane. Absolutely nuts. And what else have we got? Johnson. Yes, Charles Johnson, the receiver. He is also left. It's not a big deal. They've still got Cordero Patterson out there on the free agent market. Adrian Peterson, of course. I think Patterson's wore out his welcome with the franchise. Peterson may have also. I think my worry is that Peterson's sort of shown that I think he values himself a little too highly and is kind of actually maybe off-putting some teams. He might be pricing himself out, seeing himself still as one of the top running backs in the league, which I don't think he can afford to do, even with the amazing career he's had at 32, coming off an injury, and he was slowed down when he was playing this year, really struggled, which may not be for any fault of his own. As I say, that offensive line was atrocious. I don't know what's going to happen with him. The needs, they're still there. Not happy at all with what they've done. If I was a Vikings fan, I would be very, very disappointed with how this free agency period has gone thus far. The one thing that would get me through this is having faith in that front office and in Mike Zimmer. So sorry, Vikings fans. Feel free to let me know how you feel. Hopefully it's more positive than myself, although if I'm honest, I'm not sure you can with the activity that's taken place. Now, don't get me wrong, as I say, I really like this roster I think there's a lot of potential there. If they make some good moves in the draft, maybe pick up a couple more guys, this is a team that could be contending for the conference. But the moves they've made thus far, I think, are poor moves. And probably as critical as I've been of the team thus far, don't worry, there are other teams that will have to bear the same treatment from myself. But feel free to let me know what you think. Do you think these were good moves? Do you think Mike Remmers and Riley Reef are going to turn this offensive line around? Let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to all of them. Any suggestions for future shows, any opinions as to what you've heard today, please let me know. I'll do my best to get to everything. Thank you very much for listening. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Check out the Patreon. And as always, go Bucks.